as I was going to specifically single out Seth Rollins. In that sometimes I love him as a character, sometimes I roll my eyes, sometimes I groan, because he does not really project what a heel should be in most cases. Is he too camp? Is he too psycho? Is he somewhere in the middle? And now we have to put Becky Lynch in the same box, in that she wanted to come back as a heel. Her choice, because sometimes playing the bad guy is more fun. But when you're the man and you were the underdog and you overcame the obstacles to be a double champ at WrestleMania, and you go on maternity leave, you become a mother and you're back, you think the fans are going to dislike you? I highly doubt it. And I think she wanted to use the template as Roman Reigns did, but Roman took the time to sit back at home for 6 months, re-strategize, figure out who am I as a character to really get over in this environment. It has clicked for him, and nobody does it like Roman in wrestling, and you can't duplicate that no matter how hard you try. So the issue is, I looked at the Broken Skull session with Seth and Stone Cold a couple of weeks ago, and Seth was great. And he reminded me why he's much better as a babyface. And I'm wondering to myself, can we say the same for Becky as well? So the question is, going to Scott first, is there a possibility for Becky and Seth to regain what made them special as babyfaces, or do they need to reconfigure what makes them heels in the WWE landscape as they move to Monday Night Raw?
So as far as Becky Lynch goes, I actually think she can work as a heel. I know a lot of people don't think that she's playing a heel well. I think she's playing it okay. I think the issue is people just don't want to boo her, and especially when she's just making her big return. People were not ready to boo her. People wanted to embrace her and have their moment with her and just enjoy having Becky Lynch back. Like, you got to think that that was in the midst of all of these big returns just in wrestling in general, and Becky Lynch just being another one of those and being a bit of a surprise. Like, they just wanted to enjoy the moment and enjoy her, and I don't think they've been able to do that. Like on Raw, I think a week or two ago, she took out Bianca Belair after a match and got cheered for it, and had her name chanted. So people just are not ready to boo Becky Lynch. And when it comes to Roman Reigns, her trying to go behind that, that prototype and coming back as a heel, Roman had one big thing going for him that Becky Lynch does not. Roman added Paul Heyman, and what a difference Paul Heyman can make on a character just being beside them. That slime ball just being beside the person and that just rubbing off on them. Becky Lynch doesn't have that. And her man character already was a little bit dirty anyway. Like, the man is a little bit dirty because she will do whatever she has to do to win and take care of business. She comes in, she kicks the door in, she takes names, she leaves. That's what the man does. And I mean, so people just are not ready for that. Seth Rollins, man, yeah, I agree with you. He was great on that Broken Skull sessions, and I think he's got another great babyface run in him, but I really enjoyed him as a heel. I think once he left the Messiah stuff and just kind of went into this cult thing, I thought he really started finding his footing, but he's got another great babyface running him down the road for sure.
Paul, your take.
Well, like Scott, I think it's working better for Seth than it is for Becky. And I think what it boils down to, I mean, you brought up Roman, and I'll even go back to like Hulk Hogan and The Rock, where you look at, people that were being pushed as baby faces that made successful heel turns. And it's because the fans just generally didn't like those people, and they kind of resented the push they were getting, and they were booing them at times, even though they were baby faces. So they played into that and turned them heel. Whereas, like, there's nothing like that here. It's just, they just decided one day, hey, Becky's a heel. And even with Seth at first, it was kind of a result of the feud with The Fiend, but, fans they weren't really booing Seth. They were booing the angle. And then they kind of made Seth look like just a baby, like with his crying and everything. And I mean, and Seth talked about that in that interview that you mentioned, and I watched that this week actually, so it's kind of good timing that you made this one of the topics. So I do think that I think that even now we're starting to see the fans get into Seth's character a little bit, and now that he moves to Raw, I actually do think there's a bit of a difference between the two audiences, whereas the SmackDown, it seems to be more younger families and stuff like that in the audiences, whereas on Raw it tends to be more just like guys probably in their 30s to 50s, you know, and to where they may actually start cheering Seth because he's just so entertaining, and they may have to turn him, whereas Becky, I just think like it doesn't feel like the fans are ever going to boo her, and at some point they're just going to have to make her a face again, because no matter what she does, they're probably just going to cheer.
Yeah, she's too likable to be a heel. Honestly,
even in this role, like she's just like, she's entertaining.
She is. The fur coats, the shit talking, she's great. It's very hard to boo Becky Lynch because she's so damn likable. And for Seth, I swear I saw that motion graphic, him dancing, getting drafted to Raw. That had me laughing. I love that side of Seth, but I think that you're leaving money on the table by him not being a babyface at some point, because I think he could have gave Roman Reigns a run for their money with well-developed characters for the Universal Championship. That cannot happen right now due to Seth being moved to Monday Night Raw. But I just think Seth can be top 10 in the world as a babyface that wrestles his ass off on the regular. He has it in him. We've seen him do it multiple times. I just think the character right now, it depends what he's doing. Sometimes it's funny, sometimes he's a great psycho, and then sometimes, like on SmackDown on Friday, he gives the very monotone promo and you want to beg him to shut up and have someone whoop his ass, which happened. But I just want him to be able to have one more run as a babyface. And I know there's a caveat of him being the company man towing the line, but he spoke truth with Stone Cold Steve Austin. He thought how we thought with that Hell in a Cell match nearly 2 years ago. It sucked. He couldn't say it publicly at the time, but it sucked. So I'm glad he has some self-awareness of like, this shit was not it, and it hurt me as a babyface, and he was aware of that. And hopefully he understands that there is more money, despite this company being dummy-proof financially. It doesn't matter if you are a heel or babyface. There's no money being won or lost right now. You can do whatever. But in terms of getting yourself over and other people fighting for a championship that you might want at some point, it's more valuable for him to be a babyface in the next year or so. The people will love him again because he's got it, and very few in this business does.
You know, I actually think it's really smart that they didn't, well, not that they didn't, but if they're not going to do the Seth Roman match, that they do keep them apart, because I agree with you. I think there's a lot of money in that match, and I actually think, you know, the more that you talked about it, I wouldn't be opposed to Seth maybe winning the Rumble as a babyface. You know, maybe something just sparking in him and being like, you know what, I need to get back to who I was and get back to, you know, Seth freaking Rollins. And I wouldn't be opposed to him having a babyface run, you know, maybe winning the Rumble and challenging Roman for the title at WrestleMania. I actually think there's a lot of money in that. That's a great idea.